All right, guys, welcome to the second presidential debate. We're going live in just a second. Let me know how the audio sounds. I'm still setting up a few last-minute things. Just getting the debate voting set up so that we can have real-time voting during this debate like we did last time. Oh, shit. Hang on. I need to edit something real quick. Okay, I'm going to turn off the audio so we can watch this. Here we go. Let me know how the audio sounds, guys.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say.
Turn the debate up.
And so with that, if you're ready,
let's
start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you.
How's that?
The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes in
I got to get up fact checking for this too.
They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators, we're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the President's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the President thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe, and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the serious,
okay, you guys can vote on
journals in
madcastmedia.com.
the
Oh
whole
shit,
world,
hang on.
said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Okay.
Is that
vote on
a
madcastmedia.com. The vote is
No,
vote.
it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think,
What's up,
within a
Charlie?
matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very
Can
quickly.
you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well, and we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine, and we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is
down below, these are the fact checks that I have up on the screen here.
The summer. We're about to go into a dark
These will be updated
winter,
in real time.
a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no
I don't think we're
plan.
going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me. Many months behind me.
What do you guys think of this line of argument?
He ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal
This is a speculative line of
disease.
reasoning.
Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Our response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine.
All right, don't forget to vote, guys. Madcastmedia.com for that vote on who's winning the debate.
He said no. He said he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry, it's all going to be over soon.
Yeah, I'll edit
Come
the
on.
description.
There's not another serious scientist in the
I'll put it
world
in
who
the
thinks
link.
it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
Say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know.
If
He's
you
obviously
refresh, it
made a
should
lot
be
of
in
money
the
someplace,
description.
But he
The
has
link
this
for
thing
voting
about
is in the
living in a
description.
basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, you know, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And you know, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals, and now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99%.
Look at that. They corrected
of people
Joe
recover.
Biden.
We have to recover.
Look at the fact check.
We
They
can't
corrected
close
Joe
up our
Biden.
nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the
Says
CDC
40
has
countries
said
had
young
acted to
people
close their
can
borders
get
with China
sick with
before the
COVID-19
United
and
States.
Can pass it. Vice President
He said
Biden, I want to
45.
talk broadly about strategy.
did correct him.
Though you
Can I
have
respond to that?
30 seconds, please,
For
and then
30
I have a
seconds.
question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he has never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I
very
take full responsibility. It's not my fault that it came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it
Cool.
from coming out to the world, including
great.
Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I
Just a joke.
closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when
So
I
dumb.
closed, he
That's
said,
such a dumb argument.
this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even, and because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't say
certainly
should have
did.
called
You
Pelosi,
certainly
and I
did.
I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to
He
handling
thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's-
That's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about
Okay.
your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Kill and
shut
Evil,
down
they
the
are
virus,
shutting off
not the
mics in
country.
between.
It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living,
Thank you,
and why they're
Pimpilla.
concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business.
So far this debate's way better than the last one.
If you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we can open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this.
That look on his face.
What's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly.
Let's see what PolitiFact says about this.
They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
about... When you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed. And they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump this week
I like this
called
debate a
Dr.
lot better
Anthony
than the last
Fauci,
one.
the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them,
Thank you, Vero.
who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said this is not going to be a
Appreciate it,
problem.
Vero.
We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was.
China.
We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be
Do
a
you
good
think those
person.
were his exact
Vice
words?
President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January
some
and
fact
didn't tell the
checking.
American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said
Can you guys
to
read that?
one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing, and a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
the
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I have.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I
Yo, what
could
up,
raise so
Padilla?
much more money.
Guinness.
As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to
Don't
move
tell me
on.
about Wall
Average
Street.
contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with
Thank
the
you, Michael
security of
Eli.
our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election. I won't even get into the last one. This election.
What's up, Bob? We'll talk about it after the debate.
China's been involved to some degree, and now we learned that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to him a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians.
Thank you. Take your
But
pill.
the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign
Yes, Toaster, I can see your comment.
countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, well, I shouldn't. Well,
Look at the votes.
His buddy,
MadcastMedia.com,
Giuliani,
guys.
He's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president
What is he
is
saying?
unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done?
Not yet,
Any country that
Insomniac.
interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to you.
Have to
Let
respond.
me ask the
Yeah.
question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes
Well,
uninterrupted.
let me respond to the first part, as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife, and you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose, because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia.
Biden's
Between the
cracking.
sanctions,
Nobody's
between
tougher around
all
Russia.
of what I've done with NATO, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to
There's some
guard
fact
against
checking.
Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
Be straight here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president
All right, let's see the
paid
fact
50
check.
times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does
True.
business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can.
He said
I
that
wanna
last
do
year.
it.
He said that
And
4
it'll
years
show
ago.
How successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750.
Look at the
I
fact
asked
check.
them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax.
Talking about his
so
tax estimates.
I
These
already
aren't- this
prepaid
has
it.
nothing
Nobody
to do
told
with
me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
could release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this, but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because I have a lot of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So,
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you. Sure.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about
is the audio better? I guess there was like some white noise.
Unethical?
Nothing.
Thank you, Diesel 828.
Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best.
He just said, I won't talk about his son's drug use
in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
Right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President respond to that quickly, and then I
dishonest.
need to get to a question to you. Very quickly.
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China, like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money
President
every
Trump,
place he
thank you.
goes.
We do
Not
need to
true.
move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones.
You know, this
in the
debate,
South China Sea. You can't
this
fly
debate
through.
is already
I said,
so
"We're gonna
much
fly
better
through."
than
We
the
just
last
flew
debate.
B-52, B-1 bombers
I mean, it just
through
seems
We're not gonna
less
pay
frenetic.
attention. They have
You're
to
able to
play
hear each
by the
candidate's
rules. And what's he do?
philosophy
He
and
embraces
point more
guys
clearly.
like
This is a good idea.
Thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25%. 25%.
I think so, Ms. Vero.
Economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price
How
for
does
not
the
paying
audio
by
sound?
them economically. That's the way I will run it. And
By the
that's
way,
what
check
we
out the vote.
did in upholding steel tariffs and a range
Madcastmedia.com,
of
guys.
other things when we
And I'm
were
also going to
president
be
and vice
playing some
All
voicemails
right,
at
let's
the
talk about
Patriot
North
prayer
Korea.
line.
Excuse me, no, I have to
Yes.
respond to that.
Okay.
Call that
Very
phone number
quickly,
down
and
there.
then
I'll
we're
leave
going to move on to
With
North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10
Very
million
strong
a
email.
year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy,
true.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers'
China,
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is. It's called China. China paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making in the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
to talk
typical
about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not a
North
typical
Korea.
Hey, real quick, I want to point out that PolitiFact does fact check Joe Biden, too. Check this out.
Let's talk around, sitting around the table.
Here. All right.
Come on, Joe.
They fact check
We're
Joe
going to
Biden.
talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful
not that
letters
one. Hang
with
on.
him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a
one
war
right here.
or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic
hang on.
missile and continues
This
to
one here.
develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30
This one,
seconds
right here.
because we need to get
They
on
fact
to
check Joe Biden.
When I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House. right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul. Millions of people would be dead right now.
President
we
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and
seconds.
I have a good
Thank
relationship.
you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
Under the
All
condition
right,
that he
let's
sucks
move on
these
to
nuts.
American
Kristen,
families.
they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds.
I would vote for
tried to
any
meet with him.
presidential
He wouldn't
candidate who
do
said
it.
that.
He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
got to
for
give him a
fact, they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know,
that's okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good
Right.
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have
leaders
to
of
move
other
on, 'cause
countries
we have
is
a lot
a
of
good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not a
Your
That's
bad
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe.
Hell yeah,
Western
Rodrigo.
Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk
He
about
left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump, okay, we do
They
need to
left
move on.
me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
We
And
need
in
to
fact,
move
if
on
you
so that
remember
we
the
can get
first
to all
2 or
of
3
other
months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country had.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's
I like that they
most
don't have
important
time to
them
respond. They
is
just
healthcare, as
shoot
you
a
both
glance.
know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and healthcare is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you
He's
have to
talking
pay a
about the tax.
fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time, and I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there
that was really popular
that have
from
great
Obamacare.
private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option. It'll become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that if you in fact
Biden
do
care?
not have the wherewithal,
The hell is Biden
if
care?
you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices.
Thank you, Diesel 828. Appreciate it.
Insurance companies. Thirdly,
Biden care.
the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance. The reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus.
Look at Trump's face. He does not look pleased. 10
million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's your response to
it's
them?
ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think health care is not a privilege, it's a right.
Look at the vote, guys.
Everyone should have the right
and
to
don't
have
forget, we're going
affordable health care.
Play voicemails right after this.
I'm very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as a whole range of other people who, in fact, are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance your company's gone under? We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania, And he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way.
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
he goes for a year. There will be no fracking.
We do have a number of topics we're going to get to.
That's a big question.
We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized medicine.
I have to respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money.
This is going to be a thing now,
Biden
Biden
care?
care?
$750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans.
Wow, look at
cheaper
PolitiFact.
plans,
Check this out.
Lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroyed, and destroying your Social Security. And this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay,
let's let Vice President Biden respond. It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a very
your
confused
response.
guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare
These guys are both
said,
megalomaniacs.
if in fact,
you guys see that fact check just a
if in
second ago?
fact
The
he
fact check with
continues
Joe
to
Biden, too.
withhold
Look at
his
this.
plan to
They're fact checking
withhold
Joe
the
Biden.
tax on Social Security. Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare, come on.
He tried to get
10
rid of.
seconds,
He
Mr.
tried to
President,
hurt
and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move
but
on.
This
I'm
is
going to
the
move
guy
on.
that when they announced
Mr. President, I have to move
last
on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
gonna
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
biggest
move on to the
analysts are
next
saying
question.
Let me respond.
Very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more. $700 billion more.
1 second, I'll be right back.
Because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on,
401ks are through the roof.
We're going to move on.
Stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
We're going to move on to
and
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they could keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on.
Well, thank you, Heidi.
All
That's
that
very
was
cool of
passed
you.
in the
Appreciate it.
House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools
You're welcome,
need
Simon
the
Smith.
help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to immigration,
one thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to get
said we
your
have
reaction.
to help our small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different.
Guys,
it should be a state
somebody
option.
asked me about minimum wage after the stream
it's
is
very
done.
important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages?
for
What's going to
subscribing,
happen,
Frankie.
and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an hour.
really
Is
like,
that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
administration?
like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15
what up, T?
would
Okay,
be
President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here,
You're talking-
and
is
they
it
used
like-
to use
is
them
Coyote
to
a
get into
gang?
our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had.
What do you
We're
mean
over
by coyotes?
400 miles of brand new wall.
Is that like an actual gang
You
name?
see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But
reunite
let me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
Let me just
families,
tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, "I built the cages," and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper. And it was a
Look,
picture
Biden's
of these
just
horrible
shutting his eye.
cages.
Look at Biden.
And they said, "Look at these cages. President Trump built them." And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these
Hailey,
kids come
thank you
out
so
without
much.
the
I really
parents. They
appreciate
come
that,
over
Hailey
through
one.
cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500-plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Oh, got you,
Let me
Mr.
ask you
Okay,
a follow-up
thank you,
They
Alan.
did it.
Thank you,
We
Mr. I
changed
got
the
it.
policy.
Your response
They
to
did.
that?
Coyote is a term
We
for
did
legal
not.
Mexican
They
immigrants who
built
help
the
Mexicans
cages.
cross the border. Got you.
Who
Okay,
built
thank
the
you.
cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they
got it,
cannot
Pim
find
Bailish.
over 500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you a question.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
that
of
have
them
gotten
haven't been
such
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did
cages
fail
were
to
built
deliver
under the Obama
immigration
administration.
reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, "Oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you." They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed
We did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
I mean,
Catch and release. You know what he's talking about there? If in fact you
cages.
had
All
a
right.
family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise, why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response.
Look at
30
Trump's
seconds,
face.
and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe. They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay, President Trump, let's give Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
This is
next
the dumbest
section.
shit I've heard in such a long
Vice President
time.
Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move
But
on.
we don't have
All
to
right,
worry
we're
about
going to see
it.
the fact check.
Terminated
Watch
it,
the
so we
fact
don't
check
have
to
worry
the
about it.
Let's
my
move
side
on
right
to
here.
the next
And you have
section.
Fact check right here.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social
John Doe says Biden's
And
mad that he can't sniff the caged kids.
One of the reasons why I ended up working on the
Gross.
east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to
Yes,
learn
Smitty.
more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure
There it
that
is.
you,
The
in
fact
fact,
check
if
just
you
popped up.
get
The fact
pulled
check is
over-
right there, dude.
Yes, sir.
Remember I
No,
said the
sir.
fact check?
Hands
Watch
on
it. Look at
top
that.
of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities. And then
these opportunity zones. Someone remind me to talk about the opportunity zones too. This is some bullshit. There's some serious bullshit. I got to talk about this.
Some of those guys, they were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year, long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved historically black colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of
You
your
guys hear that?
records, but
Biden
your
tried to talk and
response
his
to that,
mic was
Vice
muted.
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
It's actually like
Why
a
didn't
decent
he do
policy,
it
I
4
guess.
years ago?
Right? What do you guys think of
Why
that?
didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you
I
do it?
am
You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up.
Excuse me.
Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
If this stuff is
questions.
true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody's
Take a look
President
at the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue
Excuse
of
me.
race. We're
That
talking
innocent
about
baby.
the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence
Wrong,
folks
Aaron.
who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, highly
Nobody
one. This
believes it
moderator
except
is
him.
really good.
His
I like
and
this
his
moderator
good
a
friend,
lot.
Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what-
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The
All right.
laptop is Russia,
Yes.
Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia?
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue
Boy,
on the
boy.
issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs
Damn
in a
right,
blanket,
dum-dums.
talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform,
Oh my God.
and prison reform, and opportunity
Wow.
zones. I took care of
The least
colleges
racist
and
person in this
universities.
room.
I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist.
This room is so
person in
African
this
American.
room.
That's how not
Okay, Vice
racist I am.
President Biden,
I
let me
can't
ask
even say
you
the word
very
dark.
quickly, and then I have a
It's
follow-up
African American in
Abraham
here.
Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said,
Proud
I told
boys,
them to
come on,
stand
Biden.
down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
Watch, Poor Boys is
President
going to
Trump,
start
I'm gonna give
trending.
you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
No,
follow-up question.
he made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham
No,
Lincoln.
where did that? No.
You said-
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm
I
saying-
didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
Oh, God.
tens of thousands of black
Joe Biden, who
men
was the vice president to a
mostly
black
in
president.
jail.
All right,
True.
let me
You know what?
ask
They
Vice
remember it,
President
because if
Biden
you
a
look at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime
Okay.
bills that you supported in the 80s and
What-
90s
what ethnicity is the
contributed to
moderator? What do you guys
incarceration
think?
of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those
Is
families.
she Indian?
Why should they
Some
vote?
of you guys saying
One
Indian,
of the
Mexican?
things is that in the 80s, we
Tim Tubby
passed
says she hot.
100%, all 100 senators
Ministry,
voted for it, a bill
Blackish,
on
Hispanic, African,
drugs
yeah, something.
and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the sense, and particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money on. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done, because I think the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to drug. But they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay,
why
so-
didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done?
Is that
That's
true,
what
Ms.
I'm
Vera?
gonna
Is she
do
Native
when I
American?
become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
didn't get
38,000. We
anything
got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got
out-
nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We
Wow,
began
look at
the
this fact
process.
check that's on the
We
screen,
lost
guys.
an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
Quick
just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on to
one
climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens
Because-
of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama.
Thank you, Mitchell. I appreciate
You
that.
know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well,
Okay.
You got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes
All right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I did with
which is
Look at
climate
Trump
justice
badgering him.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
did
we're,
what we
we're running out of
already done.
time, so we got to get on to climate change. please.
Trump's trying
You
to get
both
his-
have
get
very
under his
different
skin.
visions on climate change.
That's funny.
President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you,
uninterrupted.
Photon. I appreciate that.
So
appreciate it,
we
Photon.
have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama
Thank you,
goes
Pim
with all the
Baelish.
time.
Appreciate
Not
it.
Joe, I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have
Just
the best
below the
carbon
belt.
emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India.
I mean, that's like
It's
kind of
filthy.
bigoted, right?
The air is filthy. The Paris Accord,
All right.
took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice
I'm
President
We
expecting
Biden.
haven't
a fact
destroyed
check
our
for that.
industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change and climate warming, global warming, is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to clean up, to
Thank you,
limit
Aaron.
the limit of emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look,
Who is AOC +3? Who is that?
$100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. as far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little tiny.
That's like more than the cost of America, $100 trillion.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan was endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America
You're welcome, Kirk.
is solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages.
He didn't deny it.
$50 an hour.
He didn't deny it when he said that.
We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump, please
We
respond, and then I have some
We
follow-ups.
are energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. It's got a lot of problems, and they have to make
all the birds
in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist who said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful
factories.
There's
a fact check on the screen.
To compete with the world. So
False.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right, let me allow
fracking.
Vice President Biden to respond.
I never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need.
Thank you, Kyle Baxter. Thank you, Highly
industries to transition to get.
By the way, Joe Biden is lying right now. He did say he wanted to ban fracking, and then he changed his mind. So he's absolutely lying. Joe, I'll call Joe out. He is lying here.
The emissions from the fracking. Capture the emissions from gas. We can do that.
You're right, Bob. This is one of the few times in this chat stream you're right, Bob. He did actually say that.
To that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then we have.
He was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow.
Trump is actually right about this.
Fracking.
Joe
did lie about that. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking or oil on federal land.
Let me ask this final question in this section, and then
okay, I mean, that's a nuance that I missed.
President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely.
He did say that.
9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. Okay. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
Right.
And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. they live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute.
All right,
I
there's
used to
what
live near
Biden
that when
said
I was
according to
growing up in
fact check right
Claremont,
there.
Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final question.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the
Why
deal.
would you do
But
that?
That's a
you
big
can't-
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China
to both
to do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our
rejoin
final
Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations
Mr.
on
Struggle
everything.
says women
He
is
will
my
kill
favorite
it.
race.
If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose
Man, these guys are
science
both so
over fiction.
joyless.
We're going to choose hope
Biden
over
could have
fear.
slam dunked this if
We're
he
gonna
just said,
choose to
"You
move
didn't vote for
forward
me.
because we have
Nobody's
enormous
perfect."
opportunities.
Boom. Make a
Enormous
joke. Move on.
opportunities to make things
Rather than
better.
this bullshit.
We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half of
Look at that.
fantastic
PolitiFact
debate. Really
actually
appreciate it. President
backed up
Trump,
Trump's claim.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
They're
Thank
not
you to Belmont
biased, as you
University
might
for
think.
hosting
I
us
mean,
tonight.
a little bit,
and
but
most
not entirely.
importantly,
Look at that.
thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle Baxter. Okay, so what did you guys think of that debate overall? I think a lot of people probably thought it was a little bit better than the first time around. I thought it was a lot better than the first time around. There's a little burp for you guys. I thought this debate was much better this time around. This was a lot less frenetic. I felt like at the very least you could get a sense of where both candidates came from, like their philosophies on the issue, which was good to know. You know, you wanted to know their individual philosophies and how they differ, and I think we got that. I think that's about the best we could hope for. All right, so before we move on, I told you guys to remind me of a few things to talk about after the debate. Oh, by the way, we should check in with a couple things. First of all, madcastmedia.com, according to the debate, the poll I set up on madcastmedia.com, wow, looks like Joe Biden won by 96%. Congratulations, guys. Either you all think he did a slam dunk job or you dipshits didn't vote. Either way, I mean, this might be a preview of the election to come, but it looks like Joe Biden won by 96%. Come on, if you guys want to leave it at that, you can. This will update in real time, too. So if you guys vote, it should just update. Let me refresh and make sure that it is updated. Oh, sorry. Now it's 97-3%. Okay, great. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, we should be good. 92%. Okay. So anyway, guys, what were we going to... Who do I think won, Edgar? I mean, this was like a pretty... this was a pretty even debate. I don't think that either candidate came out like head and shoulders on top. I mean, I'm biased. I'm definitely biased. I don't want... I'll tell you right now, like, I don't like either candidate, but I definitely don't want Trump to win. So, in case you couldn't figure out my political point of view... Oh, by the way, how does my audio sound now? If there's any white noise or anything like that, please let me know. Oh, yeah, Arrogant Media, thank you very much for moderating. Says, go to Madcast Media, check out Super Arrogant Bros. It's a great podcast. And then we've got Slit518 in the room. We've got Zach Waldman. We've got a bunch of different shows on Madcast Media. Check it out. But back to what we were talking about. I wanted to talk about, what's his name? Oh, Trump's, here's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about Trump's opportunity zones. Okay, this is really interesting. Opportunity zones for Trump. The New York Times did an interesting... Yeah, here it is. Okay. Let me see if I can bring this up. So, Trump touts this thing... Let me see if I can bring this up on the main screen here. Yeah, I might not be able to. Hang on. Okay, let me see if I can do this. So, Trump touts one of these programs that he's been pushing for a while is this Opportunity Zones, right? So let's take a look at what this Opportunity Zones program is. Basically, the premise is supposed to be that he, I guess, has... Okay, yeah, here, we can shrink this down so you guys can actually read it along with me. So this is an article about Trump's Opportunity Zones. These are supposedly... This is like a place where he dumps money in, like, you know, urban areas to do development and things like that, right? So... When Trump is saying he's done more for black people, more than any other candidate, more than any other president, anything like that, what he's talking about are programs like these Opportunity Zones. Now, let's take a closer look. Before I go on, I want to see if anyone in the chat room can predict what the problem is with these Opportunity Zones. Well, I guess the headline gives away, but it says, how a Trump tax break to help poor communities become a windfall for the rich. Now, this is exactly what has happened with these so-called Opportunity Zones. This article kind of explains what's going on. So President Trump has portrayed America's cities as wastelands ravaged by crime and homelessness, infested by rats. But the Trump administration's signature plan to lift them, a multi-billion-dollar tax break that is supposed to help low-income areas, has fueled a wave of developments financed by and built for the wealthiest Americans. Among the early beneficiaries of the tax incentives are billionaire financiers like Leon Cooperman and business magnates like Sidney Cole and Mr. Trump's family members and advisors. So he's created these like opportunity zones, which is really fucking funny if you think about it, right? Because it is an opportunity zone, just not for the people you would think need the opportunities, right? These are opportunity zones for his wealthy investor friends. Among the early beneficiaries are his billionaire friends, right? Former Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, Richard Lefrak of New York real estate titan who is close to the president, Anthony Scaramucci. You guys remember Scaramucci? By the way, when was this article written? It was September 27, 2020 is when it was updated. Published on August 31st, 2019. So 1 year ago. Former White House aide who recently had a falling out with Mr. Trump and the family of Jared Kushner. Well, the family of Jared Kushner, Mr. Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, are all looking to profit from what is shaping up to be a once-in-a-generation bonanza for elite investors. So basically, it sounds like what has happened with these opportunity zones is they have cleared up a whole host of like regulations and things like that, right? So that these loans and development can happen in these underdeveloped areas. But they've opened them up for the wealthiest people, not to build like low-income housing or community projects or anything along those lines. They've done it so that they can. Thank you, Crosmo, for subscribing. They've done it so that these investors can come in and build high-end hotels and high-end properties. They're not opportunity zones for like low-income people. The stated goal of the tax benefit tucked into the Republicans' 2017 tax cut legislation was to coax investors to pump cash into poor neighborhoods known as opportunity zones, leading to new housing and business and jobs. Okay, so that is the stated goal of this program. Bob, it seems like you're a Trump supporter. I want to debate you, Bob. Bob says to build businesses for poor people to get jobs. I mean, yeah, but couldn't these poor people also get jobs and housing? You could make the same argument with Manhattan. Like Manhattan, New York has jobs, right? They have like server jobs and they have, valet jobs and things like that. But the people who work in those jobs don't live in Manhattan. They can't afford to. It's too expensive to live in Manhattan. So these people who are working these low-income jobs, like servers and waitresses and nurses and like, well, nurses isn't quite like low-income, but like, janitorial staff and valets, these people don't live in Manhattan. They have to commute into Manhattan for those low-income jobs. Well, that commute, the commute aside, it kind of sucks to have to travel that much to get to work, but it also costs them time and money. So these low-income people don't really have a lot of vertical movement in their careers. Let me go ahead. I'll read some more of these comments here. Hero Link says, such a small brain take, Maddox. I doubt you know much about economics. Well, I know about economics more than you do, dipshit. Bo Cameron says, I agree with Eric. Maddox, you straw manning. This isn't an argument Trump made. It's an argument you made. Bo, I'm just reading this fucking article, yo. What are you talking about? Killing Evil Donkey says, a new casino will help the economy. Taxpayers will pay for it. What the fuck are you talking about, you idiots? All right. Yeah, that's right, Hero League. Why don't you learn how to spell, smart guy? Okay, let me continue reading this article, and then I want your guys' opinions, see what you guys think of this. Sergio Lopez says, Maddox, Bob is too down the hole to look at his channel. He is the ideal Trump supporter. That's fine. Guys, the moderators in this room, anytime comments have been like auto-modded, they've been automatically let through. I want any kind of disagreeing comments, any kind of divisive comments. If you guys disagree with me, that's fine, because we're going to debate that. I want to have an open debate, whatever you guys want to talk about. Highly One says, build opportunity zones and buy them back when no poors can move in. Spooky says, legalize ranch. Jack Burton says, Smitty, yeah, but janitor is never going to be able to afford a place in Manhattan, lol. Wicked Serpent says, that's something universal income would amend a bit. Okay, well, we're getting out into the woods a bit. Let me go ahead and finish reading this, and I want to see what you guys think after you hear the rest of this article. The initiative allows people to sell stocks and other investments and delay capital gains tax for years as long as they plow the proceeds into projects in federally certified opportunity zones. Any profits from those projects can avoid federal taxes altogether. So he's created this like fucking tax break. It's basically just a tax break for wealthy investors. So if they build high-end hotels and casinos or restaurants or whatever they want in these so-called opportunity zones, they just don't pay taxes on it. So when people complain about, like, you know, Amazon paying no taxes, Trump paying no taxes, maybe Richard Branson, whoever, all these like billionaires paying no taxes, this is the shit they're talking about. You get a bunch of fucking billionaires who aren't interested in representing your interests going into government and then passing a bunch of laws to make it more favorable for their rich buddies to not fucking pay taxes. And they make the argument like, oh, it's going to create jobs. Well, since when is it? I mean, you want to create jobs, fine, you can make that case, but couldn't you say that a poor person who also got the benefit of not having to pay taxes could put that money towards a business eventually and also create jobs? Sure, why not, right? You could make that argument. I'm not making that argument. I'm saying you could make that argument. Okay, let's keep reading. Hold on, Bob. Let me see what you said. Bob says, look, place is like Manhattan, I can understand. Baltimore, the opportunity zones have already helped her. It's place like Detroit, places like Watts, you know, real rundown places that used to be cities. Man, you got to stop using voice to text, man, if that's what you're doing. Listen, rich people are going to take advantage of things, but the fact is, it takes rich people to create a business. They don't want to create businesses in ghettos, but if they do, they are incentivized. Bob, you're talking out your ass, man. Like, on one hand, you're saying the rich people don't want to create businesses in so-called ghettos, but if they do, they're incentivized. First of all, any libertarians in the room, I'm sure you guys would disagree with that statement, that the government's job should be to incentivize businesses to build in so-called, you know, underdeveloped areas. I'm sure libertarians would disagree with that shit. But that being said, that's not what's going on here. Even if you believe that that was the mission, that's not what's happening here. Opportunity zones, I'm going to keep reading here. Opportunity zones, hottest thing going, providing massive new incentives for investment and job creation in distressed communities, Mr. Trump declared at a recent rally in Cincinnati. Instead, billions of untaxed investment profits are beginning to pour into high-end apartment buildings and hotels. So they're building apartment buildings not for low-income people. These are not low-income jobs. They're not low-income people. If you want to say, you know, give a tax windfall to a billionaire to develop something, and with the hopes that it'll create jobs, well, what kind of jobs is it creating, and how many? Because how many people does it take to run like a hotel lobby? 10? So you're gonna give billions of dollars in tax breaks to create 10 jobs? Are you fucking kidding me? Is there maybe like a more efficient system? Even if you wanted to take this approach, let's just say this approach is the right one. The government should give tax breaks to incentivize developers to build properties, and then those properties, with the administration and management and you know, the wait staff and that sort of thing, will create jobs. No doubt about that. But is that the most efficient way to create jobs? Is that the most efficient use of that tax money? If you cut that tax money, right, if you give them a fucking windfall, and then they go off and create a property, well, who's to say that that property is going to create the most jobs? What about a bowling alley? Right? Like, at what point does government stop mandating what people do with their money? They're saying, okay, well, do what you want, go build a hotel. But they're building these hotels just for, like, high-end consumers. And to be fair, let's look at things from the perspective of the business, of the developer. If they create a high-end property, like a high-end hotel, their risk is lower, isn't it? Right? Because a richer person is less likely to default on their loans, less likely to default on their rent, less likely to be able to you know, go bankrupt and cause a problem to them. So they don't want opportunity zones to create properties for poor people. They don't want to create jobs for poor people. They want a low-risk investment. Let's be fucking honest. Okay? I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's what they want. Let's be honest. High-income people want low-risk investments. Period. And this is like something we can all admit to. If you have tons of money, you want to invest it in something safe, don't you? We all want that. So it's understandable. I'm not saying that's the problem. The problem is this fucking lie saying it's an opportunity zone, because it is an opportunity zone, but not for the people they claim it's an opportunity for. It's not an opportunity zone for poor people. It's an opportunity zone for rich people. Let's be honest about it, all right? Let's start there. This is an opportunity zone for rich people. Many of the projects that will enjoy special tax statuses were underway long before the Opportunity Zone provisions was enacted. Financial institutions are boasting about the tax savings that await those who invest in real estate in affluent neighborhoods. Okay, so this is an important fact here, right? It says here, many of the projects that will enjoy special tax status were underway long before the Opportunity Zone provision was enacted. Okay, so these were developments that they were going to do anyway. Now they're just getting a tax windfall for doing developments that they were going to do in the first place. That's pretty funny. This was stuff that was already going to happen. Okay, so anyway, let's go on. Let's keep reading. Says here, oh yeah, look at this picture too. It says, among those raising money for Opportunity Zone investments are Anthony Scaramucci, founder of Skybridge Capital, and Chris Christie. Interesting. This is, what's his name? The founder of Skybridge Capital, and that's Scaramucci, and that's Chris Christie. Okay, got it. Typhon 1 says, totally agree, Maddox, but again, it's not unique to Trump. Politicians have been doing this for years. Well, you're right. You're right, Typhon. That's why I'm not like a big advocate of either side of the political aisle. Like, I'm not, I feel like, you know, they're not equally bad right now, but I'm not a fan of either side of the political spectrum. Mr. Scaramucci's development in New Orleans offers a portrait of how the tax break works. His investment company, Skybridge Capital, that's Scaramucci's investment company, Skybridge Capital, is using the so-called Opportunity Zone initiative to help build a hotel outfitted with an opulent restaurant and a rooftop pool in the city's trendy warehouse district. Wow. Do you guys really think that that's a place where it's going to have like low-income housing? Are you fucking kidding me? How many jobs is that going to produce, by the way? Less than 1,000 for sure. Less than 500, I guarantee it. Maybe 50. Maybe 50 jobs. Because even like the maids and the house cleaners and those people, they go from like hotel to hotel, a lot of them. And even if you're able to hire them, you're not going to hire like hundreds. We're talking to like a dozen or two, right? Bread Sandwich says, Maddox, are you voting? And if so, whom? Yeah, I'm voting. I mean, I hate to say this, like I'm not like entirely decided. I'm definitely not voting for Trump. That much is sure. I hope he loses. But I'm not a big fan of Biden. I hope that Trump loses. I'll say that. I've generally voted for third party every election. The way I feel about this election is the way I felt about Bush versus Kerry in the second time that Bush ran. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was the tail end. I believe it was during the Iraq War. The Iraq War was incredibly unpopular when it happened. It was one of the most contentious wars, I think, in modern history. They didn't find weapons of mass destruction. And then the Democrats ran John Kerry as the candidate against Bush. John Kerry had the same problem that Biden has right now, which is he's just not brandable. But like Biden, when you think of Trump, you think of the Trump brand, right? Red hat, MAGA, Keep America Great, his fucking, his idiotic rallies, like all that shit, right? But he's memorable. Trump is a brand. He's entertaining to watch. I'll say this much, he's entertaining to watch. Can't stand his politics, but he's an entertaining guy. If I was able to watch this movie, it would be entertaining as fuck. You know, I just wish he didn't have any power over actual policy, which is scary. Because this guy's a fucking moron. I think he's an idiot. And on the other hand, you've got Biden, who what's his brand? Come on, in the chat room, what is Biden's brand? When you think of Biden, what do you think of? Like, what are the top 3 things about his brand? What do you think about Biden? Beach Boys drummer John Stamos, says Smitty. I would suggest that Trump is worse than Bush by a significant margin. Yeah, Trump I think is probably the worst president we've had in years, if not ever. But what is Biden's brand? Biden cares. Sleepy, confused, annoyed, says Big Man. Safe, boring, centrist. See, you guys aren't even saying words for brands. Like, Biden's, the only thing that comes close to a Biden brand is the no malarkey train. You guys remember that? No malarkey bus. Or the no malarkey bus. This is it. This is like the closest thing you have to a Biden brand. No malarkey. This is what you got, man. Come on. I think the Democrats are making the same mistake as last time. Look, I hope Trump loses. I hope he loses. I think he's an asshole. But Biden is not. It's just not it, man. Like, the Democrats had something. I think the best case scenario would have been for the Democrats to run Bernie Sanders, because he's the only guy who had any kind of fucking consistent vision, strong brand, enthusiasm. People liked him, and he's been consistent his whole fucking career. And I don't agree with a lot of what Bernie says. I do think that he's like very socialist leaning in a lot of his policies. But the way the Democrats could have fucking slam dunked this shit, if they were smart, was to run Bernie Sanders with a GOP vice president. Like, when that has happened? I think that's only happened a few times in our nation's history. You take a very left candidate, and then you moderate him a little bit, rough out smooth out his rough edges with a conservative vice president. How fucking cool would have that been, huh? Smitty says he's not socialist. Well, of course he's not socialist. The word socialist gets thrown around a lot. But I think that he was a principled character. He was a principled man. And at the very least, it would have been refreshing to have somebody who has principles that you can count on, that you can point to, and know whether you agree with them or not, at least he's got them. Because of the the candidates that were running, honestly, like, the only candidate I was like really kind of excited about was Beto. When Beto was running, because he understands technology. I mentioned this on another stream, but Beto was one of the few candidates. He comes from the tech world. So I think he would have been an interesting candidate. We need desperately more politicians who understand technology. Like, we've got so many goofy laws on the books. We've got so much bullshit. I think that the best thing would have been for a candidate like Beto to get into office, so that at least he could explain technology to all these like fucking dipshits in Congress and Senate and the executive branch. What about Yang? Yang is okay. I don't know. I didn't really like. I didn't really like research Yang a lot. Every time I heard him talk, I thought he was fine. He seemed like a pretty smart candidate. But his entire platform, the only thing I know about Yang is that he was for universal basic income. And I don't know entirely how I feel about universal basic income. I think it may be an inevitability, but I think it's probably too early to start talking about that yet. Although we probably came pretty close to it during the pandemic. We all got our $1,200 stimulus checks, which was stupid as hell. I think that a much smarter approach would have been for the government to just slash the cost of all goods in the nation by 20%. Because if suddenly you have and here's the other thing I want to talk about. Okay. I want to talk about minimum wage. Let's talk about minimum wage, all right? In just a minute, we're going to talk about minimum wage. Let me finish this article about the opportunity zones, and then we'll talk about minimum wage. Remind me as soon as we finish this. Because then we'll talk about Yang's UBI and all that other shit, all right? We'll get to that. So it says here, his investment companies, so Scaramucci's investment company, Skybridge Capital, is using the so-called Opportunity Zone initiative to help build a hotel outfitted with an opulent restaurant and rooftop pool in the city's trendy warehouse district. The tax benefit also is helping finance the construction of a 46-story glass-wrapped apartment tower. Wow, do you think poor people are going to live there? Amenities include a yoga lawn, a pool surrounded by cabanas and daybeds in a Houston neighborhood already brimming with new projects aimed at the wealthy. So what the fuck is this Opportunity Zone? Is this for black people? Is this for low-income people? Is this for urban areas that are underdeveloped? No, it fucking isn't. It's for a fucking rich person's playground, and billionaires are going to profit off of this shit. Billionaires who aren't going to be paying any taxes off of this shit. Like, you want to say lower taxes? Fine, I get that argument. I'm fucking tired of that shit. Like, taxes are out of control, especially in California. But this shit right here, stop calling it an opportunity zone. It is nothing but a fucking windfall for rich people. Rich developers, by the way. And small-time investors and developers don't get the same fucking tax break. This is opportunity zones for billionaires. It's not an opportunity zone for middle income, lower income, or bottom income people at all. It's just not. In Miami's hot design district, where commercial real estate prices have nearly tripled in the last decade, tax break is set to be used for the ritzy new office tower with a landscape roof terrace. Some proponents of opportunity zones note that money is already flowing into downtrodden communities like Birmingham, Alabama, and Erie, Pennsylvania. They argue that the funds will follow, and they note that because no data exists on whether investments are being made, it is impossible to quantify the benefits going to the wealthy versus the poor. That is false. It is not impossible to quantify the benefits going to the wealthy versus the poor. In fact, it's very quantifiable. It's called the Opportunity Zone Law. Like, you can see how much taxes they're not paying and just point to it. There you go. The early wave that's not what you judge, says John Lettieri, president of the Economic Innovation Group, an organization that lobbied for the establishment of opportunity zones. Okay, so this guy's a proponent, obviously. But leaders of the groups that work in cities and rural areas to combat poverty say that they are disappointed with how it is playing out so far. Capital is going to flow to the lowest risk, highest return environment. What did I just fucking say? What did I just fucking say, guys? Investors want low risk, high return, always. This is not something that investors are never going to invest in low income areas. They're just not. This is, unless there's like some bigger incentive. This ain't it. This opportunity zone isn't it. This is an opportunity zone for rich investors to not pay taxes. That's all this is. And if you can make the argument that they shouldn't have to pay taxes, but let's call a spade here. Let's stop pretending this is an opportunity zone for poor people and blacks. Come on. Perhaps 95% of this is going to do no good for people we care about. Yeah, of course. A tax break is born here. It says the Opportunity Zone tax break was targeted at the trillions of dollars of capital gains held by rich Americans and their companies, profit from investments in the stock market, real estate, and businesses, even short-term trades by hedge funds. When the investors sell those assets, they can incur bills of up to 41%. Which is like, I think that's a pretty progressive tax rate. It's not as high as it's ever been. It's not as low as it's ever been. Sean Parker, an early backer of Facebook, helped come up with the idea of pairing capital gains tax with an incentive to invest in distressed neighborhoods. Okay, so there's the genesis of the good idea. So this guy, Sean Parker, one of the, that investor of Facebook, the guy who basically made all his money and went to Singapore. I think that's the guy. So he encouraged, when you give somebody a capital gains tax, that money should be invested in distressed neighborhoods. Now that makes sense if you think about it, because if you're getting a tax windfall, that's not your income that you're using to invest. That is just money that you're not paying to the government. So the government says, okay, you can pay to us, or you can invest it. All right, we're going to trust businesses. We're going to trust businesses to spend this money. Why don't you invest it in low-income neighborhoods? When you're a founder of Facebook and you own a lot of stock, Mr. Parker said at a recent Opportunity Zone conference, you spend a lot of time thinking about capital gains. Starting in 2013, Mr. Parker bankrolled the Capitol Hill lobbying effort to pitch an idea to members of Congress. That effort was run through his Economic Innovation Group. In addition to Mr. Parker, the group's backers included Dan Gilbert, a billionaire founder of Quick Loans, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The plan won the support of Senators Cory Booker. All right. Then, when Congress, at Mr. Trump's urging, began discussing major changes to the federal tax code in 2017, Mr. Parker's idea had a chance to become reality. So this is saying like how the idea came in. And then the middleman says the Harvard Club of New York City, Midtown Manhattan, is the embodiment of America's old money elite. Crimson-jacketed waiters serve members who are watched over by oil portraits of elite alumni. One recent morning, financial advisors representing several dozen of America's richest dynasties, advisors to the Pritzker and Soros families were listed as attendees, crowded into the drab meeting room of the club's third floor. So they're just talking about the advisors that showed up. Basically, they talk about like how a bunch of these like rich dudes got together and changed this opportunity zone, changed the tax code to make it more beneficial to themselves. The best thing I've ever done. Backers of the Opportunity Zone program say luxury projects are the easiest to finance, which is why those have been happening first. Over the long run, they say those deals will be eclipsed by the ones that produce social benefit in low-income areas. Sure, okay, let's get the ritzy hotels out of the way first. The priority. We'll worry about the poors later. Let's get the ritzy hotels first. We got to get more rich people housed. At least some struggling neighborhoods are already starting to receive investments. Okay, that's promising, right? Ty Friend says Maddox is reading this like this was the first time it happened. No, Ty Friend, I know, I'm not saying this is the first time it's happened. I'm just giving an example because we're talking about opportunity zones. It came up during the debates. So this is why we're talking about this. And then I'm going to talk about the minimum wage, which we discussed. Yeah, we're going to talk about the minimum wage. Anyway, so, well, anyway, you guys get the idea here. It goes into detail. This is a really good article. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put the title up on the screen here. There it is. If you guys want to read that shit, go ahead and check it out on your own time. We will wrap that up right there. But let's talk about the minimum wage for a second, okay? Miss Rio says minimum wage and Yang's UBI. Okay, we'll talk about that. Bob Upsali says, yeah, exactly. You know, just because I don't agree with you, Maddox, doesn't mean that I don't find some of your stuff from 10 years ago funny. But Washington Post and New York Times, come on, man, Joe Biden. Bob, I know that Washington Post is pretty biased and left-leaning. New York Times is left of center, but they're not like super far left like MSNBC or Washington Post or Huffington Post or anything like that. But New York Times still does really good reporting. I trust the New York Times. And even if they're doing bias, like you can tell when they have a bias, the editorial board came out against Donald Trump. That's obviously a bias against Donald Trump. But that doesn't mean all their reporting is always biased. They just maybe might not report like positive news stories about Donald Trump when they could. But positive news stories about a candidate is kind of propagandistic. That is tending towards propaganda, right? Anyway, let's talk about minimum wage. The $15 minimum wage, federal minimum wage, will destroy Puerto Rico, period, says the Red Scourge. So how many, just out of curiosity, type a 1 in the chat room if you support the minimum wage, type a 2 if you do not. If you support like a $15 minimum wage, type 1. If you do not, type 2. I'm just curious. And I know this is kind of a loaded question, but I'm just curious where you guys stand on the minimum wage issue. Just out of curiosity. Let's see what you guys think. So we got some 1s in here. It says, I'm not sure why the minimum wage isn't tied to the inflation. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Okay, a lot of you in the chat room. I'm seeing a lot of 1s in there. Some 2s in there. Lillian's got a 2. Typhrin says 1.5, so that's a maybe. Snack says 0. Don't know what that means. Camilla's got a 2. Bunch of 2s in there. Chewing says 1. Patubis says 69. Right on. Nice. That's real nice. Okay. So here's how you fix the minimum wage problem. Just tie the minimum wage to the GDP. All right, so the criticism I hear by a lot of conservatives about the minimum wage, like if you make it $15, businesses are going to go out of business, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't have to happen. Because if income goes up, the minimum wage goes up. The cost of living goes up, the minimum wage goes up. If it comes down, the minimum wage comes down. That's it. Solve the problem. So if our GDP grew, like the minimum wage hasn't been increased in what, like 20 years or some shit like that? But the cost of living has gone up. The cost of goods has gone up. The cost of gas, the cost of milk, the cost of eggs, everything has gone up. The minimum wage has not. So some companies may not be incentivized to pay their employees a minimum, like a livable wage. Do you guys think that if somebody works full time, they shouldn't be homeless? Like, we can all agree on that, right? If somebody works, they should have a place to live. They should have food. That is like the basic tenet of humanity. If you work, you should be able to earn your keep. You should be able to put a roof over your head. We all agree on that, right? Right? In the chat room, you guys? Okay, yes, agreed. Good. Bread Sandwich says no. Why don't you agree? Why don't you agree, Bread Sandwich? What's unreasonable about what I said? Is it my voice? Is it my candor? Bread Sandwich says no. Okay, what do you disagree with? What did I say? If you work full time, all right, this is not a hard proposition. I'm saying if you work full time, that means you have earned your keep on Earth, on planet Earth. You've earned your fucking keep. You should be able to have some food and a roof over your head. That's not controversial. If you guys disagree with that statement, you can fuck off. I think that's not controversial at all. If you work full time, you should be able to eat food. How is anyone arguing with me? What are you guys, fucking idiots? Unreasonable says anything the government gives you was first stolen, then leveraged with the central. Okay, I don't want to get in this fucking libertarian nonsense. Curtis Lee says, lol, Democrats don't understand what earning your keep means. They're entitled to... Oh my god, okay. This is dumb. This is dumb as shit. Like, every time I read the chat room, I feel like I've lost something instead of gained something. Like, it never enriches my life to read your guys' comments. It always takes. You guys take and take. And all I do is give and give. I am so generous with my time and opinions. I don't know what you guys have done to deserve me, to be honest. Alright, I see a lot of dumb comments. Arrogant Media says it's your chat room. Alright, let me read more of you guys' dumbass comments. Eric Richards says, your time is garbage. You're garbage, Eric. Snack says, I'll enrich the shit out of you. You're not going to enrich shit, Snack. Highly One says, make food and gas free. No, look, you guys. Okay, Bread Savage says, you're saying every job is worthy of a living wage as long as you do it for enough hours. Well, not every job. Basically, if somebody's willing to pay you for a job to do it full time, then yes, it should be a livable wage if you're, if you're willing to do it full time. If it's worth an hour of your time on Earth, then it should be, like 40 hours per week. Then yes, you should be able to live off of that. If you're doing work for somebody that they deem valuable, otherwise they shouldn't hire you, right? If you want to pay somebody peanuts, then you're going to get peanuts work. If you want to hire somebody full time, then pay them. I don't see what's so complicated about that. Like, if people work hard, they should be able to live. All right. So you have a minimum wage that is pegged to the economy. What's so fucking hard to figure out about that? I solved the problem. If the economy goes up, the wage goes up. If the economy comes down, the wage goes down. It's just that simple. Peg it to the stock market if you want. If investors make money, then the wage goes up. All right, peg it to the economy. Because the argument that conservatives say is that once the minimum wage is set, it's never going to go down, which is fair. Because if the economy does take a hit and businesses are making less money, there's less profit. They shouldn't have to continue to pay their employees $15 an hour, right? We all agree. I think that's a reasonable thing. I think that's something that liberals would probably fight against. But I think that conservatives would say, yeah, that's the whole reason they don't like the concept of a minimum wage. Because if you have a business, like say a business like a restaurant that during the pandemic suddenly takes a hit, it takes a 30% dip in business, they're not making as much money anymore. So maybe the minimum wage is pegged to the income that the business makes. If they have like a year-to-year profit of like, I don't know, 70%, 50%, 100%, 200%, the minimum wage could be pegged to how much the business itself makes. And that does two things. First of all, gives the employee an incentive to work harder, doesn't it? Makes that job more valuable, doesn't it? Will attract better employees, won't it? Because then if you have a fuck-off employee who's not pulling his or her weight, you can give him the boot, hire someone else who wants that job. In Los Angeles, server jobs are some of the most coveted jobs in this town. Like, servers make a ton of money in Los Angeles. Because generally speaking, they make like a 20% tip. Plus, a lot of restaurants pay them a livable wage. So they make a lot of money on that. It's not like some fucking ho-hum job, like, where you get as a last resort or if you can't do anything else. People want to become servers in Los Angeles, and it becomes a job that people fight for and work for and really try hard to get. Isn't that what every job should be? Like something that compels the most qualified and best people to step up and do that job? Don't you want to hire the best people for that job? Well, then pay them. Pay them something that is commensurate based on how much the company is making. It incentivizes employees to work hard. It attracts the best quality and the highest quality and the most skilled employees out there. Problem solved. All right, that's my pitch. What do you guys think? Minimum wage pegged to the economy. The GDP goes up, or the stock market goes up, or maybe even on a micro level, a business's income. So that if a business's income, you have a bad season, you're not going to be wiped out because you have to pay all your employees a shit ton of money. All right, what do you guys say? Hi, David Sullivan says yes. Those server jobs in Georgia are exempt from getting minimum wage, so their checks can be as low as $1.25 an hour. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I think that's probably for the same reason. Like, restaurant businesses can have ups and downs based on season. Miss Fear says, yes, sounds good. Maddox, double teacher's pay. Ty Friend says, Maddox, what did the leper say to the hooker? Keep the tip. All right. Again, one of those instances where I read the comments and I feel Less enriched, not more. Num Num says, Maddox, no, you don't understand. Profits are more important than people. Okay. Valum Jean says, servers in Utah are still paid $2.13 an hour. I mean, that's more than some places. David Sullivan says, I like the idea of tying it to businesses, gives an incentive for small businesses to grow. Bingo! And here's the best part. Once you tie the minimum wage to how much money the business is making, then the employees are invested in growing your fucking business. Do you guys get it now? You tie the employee's income to how much the business makes, and then that gives the employee skin in the game to make sure that your business grows. No more stealing, no more fucking around at work, no more slacking off, no more dipshits who don't want to work there. Now you're going to get the best, the brightest, and the most highly skilled employees who are personally invested in seeing your business grow. How is that a fucking losing proposition in any capacity? I just fucking solved everything. I should end the stream right here. You guys should record this broadcast onto your phones and listen to it every single day. Write down everything I said. Read it every morning when you wake up and every night before you go to sleep. Smartest fucking thing you've ever heard in your lives. I don't even know why I did. This is charity. No amount of money is enough for the wisdom I'm spouting on the stream here. Pierre Goldstein says, Maddox for president? You wish. I don't know. If you guys really beg me, maybe I'll run for president. You guys have to beg. Campaign slogan, Maddox 2020, beg. Oh, man. Oh, Bread Sandwich says, damn, I left and came back and I missed the wisdom. Yeah, you did, Bread. You really fucked up, man. You're going to have to watch the stream again, rewind it, print it out, record it, write down everything I said, read it when you wake up in the morning, and again before you go to sleep at night. Everything I said is the smartest thing you've ever heard. Red Scourge says, Maddox, what do raises do? Not make everyone get a federally mandated minimum wage? Well, what I'm saying is the minimum wage, right, shouldn't be a federally mandated one. It should maybe be a locally mandated one tied to the business's income or tied to the GDP or tied to the economy. That way, if the economy goes up, wages go up. The cost of living goes up, wages go up. If it goes down, they come down. It's that simple. Why is no politician floating this idea? Why are politicians so fucking stupid? Left and right, nobody's suggesting this. Only me. This genius right here. Bam! Filling your fucking noggins with brilliant ideas. I can't believe how smart I am. Okay. Alright. This is the point in the stream where I'm just gonna start cranking one out to how brilliant I am. Okay. Oh boy. Walper Style says, wow, you have no clue about economics. Yeah, I do. Walper Style, you don't know shit, man. Walper Style. Why don't you get a cooler name? Maybe then I'll listen to you. Chewing Love says, Maddox for the Regressive Party. Amen. Cameron says, because Dems want the federal government to control everything. Brad Sanders says, I can't believe how smart I am. I love Maddox. All right, guys. I should be wrapping it up there. Was that the last presidential debate? Are there going to be any more before they vote? By the way, it looks like Biden won the debate by 97%. Also, I have the vote on here on who you guys think will be president. Let me see if I can... Yeah. There it is. Biden, you guys think Biden will win the election by 95%. Okay, interesting. 95% Biden. Cool, cool. That's it. Oh, before I go, let me play some of the voicemails. You guys left me some voicemails. I said I would play some voicemails. That is the Patriot Prayer Line right down below over here. The Patriot Prayer Line. If you guys want to leave me any voicemails, I'll listen to those right now. I'm going to listen to the voicemails of the Patriot Prayer Line. Let's see. Let's hear this one. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear this.
The best way for the next moderator to keep control of things is to put the dog shock collars on both candidates so that when they start interrupting or talking over people, they get fucking zapped.
All right, that's funny. Here is another one. So if you guys leave voicemails right now, I'll play them. Let's see. Here's another one.
Oh my goodness, Trump can live. I mean, I wanted the doctor to put, just a little bit of cyanide in his IV. Just help the man along on his trip to the ninth circle of hell. But that hasn't happened. So we're fucked. We're fucked. Time to tell the Queen. I want just write a letter to the Queen. Said this whole independence thing has been a mistake. Take us back.
All right.
Fuck Trump. Yeah.
Not yet, Cameron. I haven't voted yet. I don't think I found my ballot yet. Here's another one. Let's see.
I just wanted to say a prayer for the soybeans. I miss them. I don't like that Trump got rid of the soybeans.
Soybeans? Oh, he's talking about Goya beans? Yeah, maybe he's talking about the Goya beans. Rodrigo says, Maddox, do you have a degree in something? I have a master's degree in everything. Here's another one.
Hello?
No, that doesn't work. Here's another one.
Hey, I just want to pray for the whales and tuna.
What? Like, I was expecting there to be some prank calls, but these are some of the dumbest, weakest prank calls I've ever heard. Soy boy meme? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you guys are trying to say. Jonathan Halryuk says, Maddox can't even read a simple poll. What a fool. What poll did I miss? Num Num says, Maddox, the U.S. should rejoin the British Empire. Red Skirt says, technically baiting is part of everything. So he has a master's degree in baiting. Alright, here's I got some really faded colors. Some of these voicemails aren't even... Okay, yeah, here's another one. Here we go.
Oh yeah, this is Bob. All you libs love the government so much, you want to lick Nancy Pelosi's, whatever, clamshell.
Nice. Nice one, bro. Here's another one.
Hey, Maddox. I heard you have a master's degree.
Yes.
Is it in lesbian dance theory? Or social justice warrior practices?
Nice. Okay,
Probably
good one.
both.
Good one. You really got me. That was really good. You really got me, dude. Let's see. Eric Amino says, this is your audience and I'm part of it, Maddox. Let's see. Should I call it Tubin now? What are you guys saying here? Alright, let me play some more of these voicemails. That one can't play yet. Here we go. I don't know the whale thing. I don't get it. Yeah, alright. Oh, here's another one.
Maddox, it's Bob.
Oh, hey, Bob.
You're a social justice warrior.
Cool.
But that's okay.
Alright.
Because
what?
Like the
What's that mumbly? Yeah. Oh, Bob. Oh, Bob, I'm so sorry, man. How does it feel? How does it feel, Bob, to think that you have government and politics all figured out, but you can't even figure out how to use your fucking cell phone, Bob? That's gotta hurt, huh, buddy? Huh, Bob? You can't even talk into a cell phone without muffling the receiver. I mean, it's so fucking easy. I don't know how many times per day I talk on the phone, and I don't have a problem. You pick up the phone, you talk into the receiver end, you don't cover it with your fucking hand, you don't muffle it, you don't rub it against fabric, you don't rub it against your clothes. It's the easiest fucking thing in the world, Bob. You want me to believe that you have the right idea about how to run this country, Bob? You don't even know how to use a cell phone, Bob? Is that what you want me to believe, big boy? Alright, here's another one. I think, who is this one? Let's see.
I said soybeans.
Soybeans, got it.
I want the soybeans back.
What soybeans?
Trump canceled soybeans.
He canceled soybeans? What the fuck are you guys talking about?
Fuck Bob.
Fuck Bob. Roadkill says Bob is a dry bitch. Poison Dart says Bob, you dumbass. How do I Triforce? Says Charlie Barker. HK says Maddox is cheating us by streaming on YouTube instead of Twitch. What the fuck, lol, JK. Izudin Hamsbury says, Maddox, would you want to become the Emperor of America? I mean, of course. I don't know if you guys deserve it, though. Let's see. Here's another one.
Oh, Maddox. You turn the volume down. It's not that I don't know how to use a phone.
No, you dumb bitch.
Nice try, though.
No, you dumb bitch. I can make the MP3 available right now. I can replay that same fucking shitty voicemail, Bob. Nice try, bitch. Nice try. All right. Here's another one. Thank you for following Puntin Stacks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you guys are saying. I don't know what you guys are saying.
Oh, Maddox. It's Bob, but my name's not Bob. It seems like even your fans love me.
Again, dude, you just gotta like learn how to use cell phones. All right, I'm not gonna play that one. Bob, you might be. I think I might be time for a timeout for Bob. Izudin Hamsbury, thank you for following. Excuse me. By the way, guys, if you haven't subscribed or followed yet, do that. Mist X Fusion says Trump won the debate. Biden's a criminal. Okay. Here's another one.
Maddox, if you move the moon further away from the Earth spins more slowly. The days will get longer.
I mean, is that true? I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Here's another one. Let's see. Here we go.
Yo, Maddox, this is Tough or Not, and I just wanted to say I don't know why you're doing this on YouTube instead of on Twitch, because this chat room is a shit show. Anyways, love you. Vote Regressive Party 2020.
Yo, thank you, Puffernot. Thank you for calling in. Puffernot was also, I believe, helping moderate. Thank you, Puffernot. Good to hear from you. And here's another voicemail. I think this one's to you, Bob. Here you go.
Bob, shut up.
You know what? Let's hear that one again. I wasn't sure. You know, that's how you use a cell phone. Listen how clear he enunciated every single word. Listen to this.
Bob, shut up.
Yeah, Bob, shut up. Here's another one, and let's see. Oh, these are okay. Here we go.
Oh, Maddox. I don't know why the phone keeps cutting out, but I asked why, or where, rather, you got your Burger King hat.
Oh, good one, Bob. I haven't heard the Burger King joke before. And by the way, if you're asking me where I got a Burger King hat, here's a hint. It's Burger King. You said it yourself, big boy. It's Burger King. If you think I got a Burger King hat, then it comes from Burger King. It's right in the name. Bread Sandwich, thanks for the 5, says Ruckas Knuckas for life. Yeah, I think he would appreciate that. I actually just saw him tonight. Here's another voicemail. I'm only going to play a few more and then I got to go.
Biden's brand is like my non-abusive grandpa.
You're not abusive, grandpa. All right, that's funny. Here's another one. We're only going to play a few more, and then I got to bounce on the Patriot Prayer Line. Again, the phone number is down below in the middle of the screen. If you guys want to call it, now's your chance before I sign off. Here we go. And here's another one. Here we go.
Hey, Maddox. This is fake Bob here. I'm just gonna keep on talking here.
You're doing a great job there, Maddox. Keep it up. Thanks for streaming all this and for all your antics.
All right. Let's see. There's one or two more voicemails. Here's another one.
Bob, please enlighten us.
Please enlighten us. All right. Okay, guys, that's about it. Unless I get any last-minute voicemails, I'm going to sign off right here. I have a stream on my Twitch channel. Actually, it's my nephew, Banana Docs, who is a real-life talking banana. If you guys want to tune in, that's on twitch.tv/realmaddox. I think the link is somewhere on the screen or in the description somewhere. Yeah, there it is. It's on the screen near the middle. It's twitch.tv/realmaddox. KH1129, how dare you? Godzilla is not lame. How fucking dare you? Camera says Baba Booey. Let's see. Do I still write for the website? I sure do, Das Mastrify. Das Mastrif? I don't know, whatever. I have a couple articles that I made that I posted this year. Here is one more voicemail, I think. I don't know if it's loading up. I gotta check in just a second. Melanie Fox says, can't wait for it. Thank you, Mel. So yeah, twitch.tv/RealMaddox. Subscribe to this channel, follow to this channel. I don't know if there are going to be any more debates. I'll probably do like more Maddox news at some point, especially if there's any breaking news. If you guys, by the way, if you ever want me to do an impromptu stream, just tweet at me with like a big news headline, and I'll hop on here and I'll give you guys my wisdom. Do we plan on uploading more videos in the future? Do we deserve it? Is Hooden? Yes, I will be uploading more videos, and no, you do not deserve it. Ty Fran says that was the last debate. That was the last debate. Okay, cool. Well, there it is. I guess that was the last debate. Let me see if I can get this to play. Yeah, here we go. Here's another voicemail. Oh, yeah, okay. No, we're gonna play that. Okay, here we go. Here's another one.
It's the last minute voicemail. Love you. Goodbye.
All right, thank you. Play another voicemail, says Bob. No, Bob, I'm not going to play that one. Let's see. There's one more. Here we go.
Just want to say I love the alphabet of manliness, and I've been following you for a while, and just keep up with the good stuff, and yeah, don't let all the haters get to you. Take care.
Right on, dude. Lots more to come. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap up the voicemails. I'm going to wrap up the stream there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. And I know you guys enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it. That's usually how it works. Again, I'll be having my nephew stream on twitch.tv/RealMaddox tomorrow. More streams at some point. I'll be doing news on here more often. If you guys liked it, give it a follow, give it a subscribe. You're welcome. More than anything, I always like to tell you guys, from the bottom of my heart, you're welcome.